So this topic, depending on what I have titled for this video, is some schools are trying to open, and some schools, when I mean some, I mean like very, very little, are opened back up. And because of this, cases have, began coming in, rapidly fast due to kids, catching, COVID, catching the coronavirus. And there is a debate, not so much a fight, but a debate along with an argument on, should, kids be wearing masks, in school, the medical mask. And I done a video on how schools should, would probably end up being once all this can be over, should be over, once it is over with, and how a lot of it is going to change. And, I will be linking that video in the in-screen video onto this one. But I kind of want to revisit the subject a little bit and then talk about, what the problem is, honestly. And also, some new stuff from, what I thought about. So this is going to be a pretty long video. I want to make sure that I get what I want to say right. So, some schools, a good majority of them in counties, are worried about opening back up. They want to stay closed. I know it was announced a couple months ago that school in America will be closed for the rest of the year. That messed up a lot of things that some of the kids may have been looking forward to, like the finals for their sports, prom, graduation was held back, and some schools decided, you know what, we ain't gonna have it. So then that raises the question, for ones that didn't have it, did these students receive their diplomas in the mail, or do they gotta go back and repeat? That's the question. And I think only time's going to tell. I think we will hear about people going back to repeat in order just to graduate. I do know I've been seeing school supplies out, and underneath, what we consider normal circumstances around, this time in August, which it is, I think maybe the second, going on to the second week, pretty much the end of the first week, kids would have been, they would have been their first full week, back in school. Just like in July, like down here in the South, in the state that I live in, Tennessee, July 24th is considered registration day, a half day of school. And then around this time, the first full week of August would have been the first, full week of school. Especially this whole month, would have been, parents shopping for school supplies. And when I went to the dollar store a couple of days ago, they had cheap sales for like pre-K supplies, and somebody bought out the whole roll of crayons, which are like 50 cents a box. And with the schools that are, opened back up and trying to, operate, as normal, some of the problem that I see is overpopulation or overcrowding, but they're more concerned about the mask issue. Okay, I understand teachers, when I was in school, they may have not have wanted you, eating in class, snacking in class, or drinking in class, or falling asleep in class. And, some teachers, they wouldn't really, mind you, snacking and drinking, just long as it wasn't constantly or wasn't loud. And as long as in between, the quiet minutes, the quiet hours, per se. And sometimes, you would get, snack break depending on, what teacher you had and, what kind of day it was. And also up to the students if they behaved and if it was up to the mood of the teacher. Sometimes if you weren't doing nothing, then, the teacher wouldn't mind you, taking a nap in the classroom, laying your head down on the desk. So with the students, having their faces, proportionally covered up, at least from the mouth area, you don't know what the kid is eating. You don't know if they're trying to drink something that they shouldn't be drinking. You don't know if they're trying to take some kind of drug, some type of narcotic. You don't know if they're, be sleeping. And if you want them to read a sentence, you're not going to be able to, hear them read. The words could be muffled, like, read page 15, read the first couple sentences and be like, you ain't gonna be able to understand that. So some of the masks with the videos that surface, are made underneath poor conditions. And, were the schools even, proportionally clean? I don't know, because everything seems to be around cleanliness. I talked about, I'm not sure if it was on this channel or my other channel, I talked about an example about, a virus. How does something like that spread, and how's it compared to, a fungus? Matter of fact, I think I did that conversation on my gaming channel about The Last of Us. And I use real life scenarios and logic and some examples. So if kids are reported getting sick because these schools, to an extent have opened back up, you may not know what the other kid has either. Which then makes this very tricky to do because, you got kids out here running around, trying to run these streets, acting stupid, acting dumb, not having any activities in their day-to-day life because they're so used to being on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, fighting online, so used to being on, the PS4s on live, and that's how they communicate with their friends. And I feel like, schools need to open back up, but there are ways to take precautions, because these kids today, for the past decade, again, I'm 30 years old, so a lot of them, now from the past decade that passed going into this one, a lot of them don't believe in really going out and hanging out with their friends. Not like it was, back when I was in school, coming up. We used to see our buddies sometimes early in the morning, even during school and after school, even on the weekends. We would go and get our partners, hang out with our partners. I know there's the option on the table for parents to let their kids back in school. However, the question remains, once things, tend to blow over, and if it's that frightening, I think they should wait till next year for schools to open back up. And I feel like, okay, man, if you really want the rest of the year off, or the year off, what they're going to have to do is wait till January of next year. And that's the prediction for a lot of people, that January next year will be the end of all this. I hope it is. With these kids are still getting sick wearing masks, then it should be the mask's fault, because a lot of cases I believe that are happening are from the masks, some way, somehow. Because in some people, who don't wear it seem to be okay. Like me, I don't really wear a mask at all. Only time I have to wear one is if I go into the store, because it is mandatory store law here in the state, again, where I stay from, to wear a mask in the stores. Now, schools and kids getting sick, catching something, has always been a thing. Has always been a thing, because, the schools that I went into, they didn't keep them clean. The janitorians didn't do their job. So you were touching shit all the damn time that was just dirty. You were touching things that were dirty all the damn time. From outside of the school to going on the bus, because the buses were not kept clean. So you don't know what you have. Going to the bathroom, touching your stuff, using the the commodes and the sinks and the bathrooms, that weren't kept up either. But there weren't any soap in a lot of them bathrooms at all. The hallways were dirty. There was stuff on the walls in the hallways. The classrooms, weren't always kept up the best. I remember I got food sick one time, food poisoning, from undercooked chicken nuggets. People, with students, always end up getting sick and catching something from being in school around people, who came back, who shouldn't have came back, who, in my case, were still sick. A place that just wasn't kept clean. at all. You have new students coming in so much that you had also overpopulation, overcrowding. And especially when you have a lot of school stuff just sitting in the building for decades on end. And there's germs and critters that run over that stuff that you don't see, that we ain't there during the night hours. So it's not surprising to me that these kids are getting sick, and now they gotta re-shut down the schools that did open. Some kids, with students, are brought up in bad environments, especially in living conditions to where they ain't gonna look clean. They always got picked on, made fun of for it. And then people be spreading out things, oh, well, he or she, may have, something just because, they weren't always the best clean when it kept to hygiene. I've seen that plenty of times as well. And, these are, one of the people that do get targeted for spreading around things or for people getting sick in school. If you take a look at the special needs students, there was always a thing that because these students are kept in the classroom throughout the day and they were born with special needs, help, or issues, that we're afraid that they might spread around the sickness. So because of this, I can see special needs students definitely getting targeted, but it's because by the CDC, being special needs and having disabilities, they labeled that as a disease. And they labeled it as a disease and has it out there like it can be spreaded. It can't be spreaded. That's something that you're born with. So even with this going on and a lot of the students getting sick, and now some of the schools that open, they have to be shut down again. So your main targeted areas, they're going to target kids who don't have good hygiene because of the environment where they come from in their household. You're going to have special needs students getting targeted the most. And a lot of these schools, I guarantee you, they didn't properly clean them before opening back up. They probably left them that way since schools got canceled. Then even during this summer, even though the summer now is just passing by, and then these kids, they're outside in this all the time. Everyone figures, man, I'll be safe, with this mask on. People don't tend to really understand just because you have a mask doesn't really mark you as safe. Just because you have a shower don't really mark you as safe. Just because you have cleaning products doesn't really mark you as safe. Because there's still ways for viruses, illnesses to still enter in through one's body. We got open skin cells, we got open pores in our body, and things can go right into that. It doesn't matter. People think, man, I got clothes on. Well, you can have clothes on, but things can travel through clothes, man. Matter can travel through stuff, bruh. So you ain't really safe at all. So if you want to go into the fact of, really what to do, wearing masks in schools ain't gonna help. So I can see them, okay, we prefer our students to wear masks when they go to the bus, walk to school. When you please enter in, take off your mask and then put your mask back on when you get ready to go home so you can be safe, right? Before that, you need to take a week to really clean them schools. So not just have the janitorians do it, but say, okay, teachers, you know what, we're going to help our janitorians, clean the school inside and out, get all the cleaning materials. A lot of people say, man, these schools, they underfunded. These schools ain't underfunded, man. I used to work for the school system. The school has money. Schools do hoard out, and schools do scam their students. Real talk. They buy all this new shit that they have put away in the storage garage for decades on end that ain't even opened up or being used. So the schools can't be complaining about being underfunded. It's the teachers that are underpaid, not the school. So they can take the money out, clean it inside and out, get it sprayed down as well. And another thing they can do, okay, so we got overpopulation, right? They had the whole summer to add on expansions to the school to make more room. Schools are more so tall, but not more so, so much as long or as wide. Some classes are, some classes really ain't. So, they could have definitely expanded to make more room. And the school districts, the schools still allow outside zoning because parents can either afford to send their kids to a nice school if they are some parents, have decent jobs. Some parents have good jobs, but they want to make sure their kid, gets the best, education, the best school. So some, do live in places like the projects or like in hoods, and they're going to want to send their kids to the best school. So they're willing to chill out money, for that. That's why they're going to work even extra hours as well for those that may not even have a good job. Rather than send them to a school where, they don't need to be wasting their time. Because a lot of these schools, man, they don't give a fuck. So I can see that in some people, who have money, don't want to send their kids to a good school, so they're going to send them to the cheapest school as well. So outside zoning, is a big problem. That's what causes overcrowding. For many years that I have been in school in my life, it was always overcrowding on the buses and inside the school itself. Because every time a new student would come in, right? And there'd be multiple new students, not just one. But every time new students would come in, the teachers always had one hell of a time finding places for the students to sit. Always had a hard time. So one of the problems again for why many of the students now are getting sent home being sick is because now you got outside zoning. It's been going on and they'll never take care of it. So if you want to stop that, then you really have to put an end to it. That will cut down on overcrowding and may cut down on the spread of a lot of the kids getting sick in school. So it could definitely cut down on that. But it's up to the state to really crack down and figure out, okay, man, who's outside the zone. If you're outside the zone, you can't be here. A lot of the parents might claim, man, I just spent money. Okay, you may have spent money, but you should have known better. Though you should have known better. And a lot of the, states with the schooling want to save so much money and steal so much money that, they don't want to, chill out the money to, again, expand the school. Central had to get torn down. It was a dirty school. It was time for a new building. They say there was asbestos. It might be true, but they hoarded out so much money I exposed a lot about that, but they rebuilt the school, and they don't have to really worry about so much as overpopulation, and they're still trying to expand more on the school, and even on top of the hill, and putting in a lot of new stuff. I get it, and why they're doing it, why now they want to expand more, but you really gotta think, man, like, the main problem is overcrowding, overpopulation. One of the schools I seen had like tape with the striped lines on them in different colors to mean different things, and they had it divided up like jail or in prison, so you couldn't cross certain lines. So because of this, I feel like this one school is safe. And going into more so the problem, a lot of classrooms get overcrowded. Like, we all been where we had to try to walk through the little walking space we had, and it's so much about space that you just never really had a lot of room. The cafeteria, when I was coming up, was so overcrowded. Man, you probably couldn't even eat. And then the teacher's like, oh, well, you can't be out here eating, this for the older kids. Well, if we can't be out here eating, do something about the overpopulation in the cafeteria, in the schools. Because you don't know where these students' hands have been at, what they've been touching in order for things to get spreading. It wasn't a good idea for schools to open back up anyways. If they have to, what they can do is enforce a law. While schools are out, until all this blows over, figure out what we can do, take out the funding to expand the schools, take out less of the desk, try to fix something, enforce something with outside zoning. We in turn everyone to do homeschool. And homeschooling, you ain't even gotta go nowhere. You at home, all you gotta do is send in your mail off your work. That's it. That's all you have to do. Plus you have the computer. The internet these days to really help you out with that. Or do something with online classes, right? They can make a program for that from elementary, middle school, and high school. Hell, they have it for people for colleges and GEDs, right? Why not do it for the, kids that are in school? That way they can still gain an education. You ain't gotta worry about your child being hurt. They let it be for 5 hours out the day, 8 at the most, right? If you wanted it like that. But I guarantee you, make it for 5 hours, out of the day. Get as much done as possible. Don't let it be a lot of work. And, they can email off that work that they did online. Why all the states are figuring out the school thing and, doing, what I'm talking about. That's why a kid is still getting education. They're in the school, and the states want to make money on that somehow. Okay, then, have like an online registration through, prepaid card or, some type of credit card or, bank card, right? And if it's like, what about books? Well, you ain't giving out kids books, man. They can look this stuff up online. So the online and the research that they have to do and the things that they have and the things that you want them to read are online. But you got to make sure you got them pages that you want them to read available on the online classes so they can read it. So they can just read it. Because right now with money, the way things going right now, COVID messing up a lot of things financially for a lot of people, man. So I guarantee you ain't nobody gonna have the money to go out and get them books. And even if they do got the money, they're not going to want to do it. So you need to make sure that whatever lessons you want them to read, whatever pages you want them to read, you want to make sure that you got that for digital online. Because the only thing that you're going to want to do is really write stuff down and have it write it down the best they can, and what order you want them to write them down physically, as well as you want them to type it as well, so they can get that stuff sent out physically and also email to you digitally as well. You know, don't have them do any science projects, because there ain't gonna be no way in hell you're gonna be able to grade that, because that's something that has to be done in person. So you can't do that. PE, you're gonna have to cut that out, because a lot of these kids, man, just choose not to stay active at all. I know a lot of people's like, yeah, they're not gonna be active. Look where we're at now. You know, that doesn't really matter. You know, I'm out every day getting physical exercise by walking. I'm okay. But how you gonna monitor, you know, PE? Online classes, you know, you're not gonna be able to. So that's something that they can do, because if people are that worried and that concerned so much with parents, you know, that's an option that can be done. Why the schools are cleaning, adding on extra to the school by expanding it and figuring out what the fuck they're gonna do about overcrowding, overpopulation because of outside zoning. This has always been the issue, man. Always been the issue. And if you're worried about kids that come to school underneath poor conditions with poor hygiene, it ain't the kids' fault, man. It's the people that they staying with. But I can tell you this right now: child services, care services don't give a fuck about kids like people think, man. I happen to be a victim of shit like that. I also have seen stuff like that, and they don't cater to people that truly need it. Matter of fact, what they do, they ignore the kids underneath those circumstances, because they barely investigate, and what they investigate is not even them really investigating. So what they do, they write it off as it's the kid's choice. There's nothing wrong here at the house. All this is flabbergasted. Let's move on. And the reason why they do that, it's because, one, politics, which goes into finances. A lot of these people underneath poor conditions, man, that are barely getting by and struggling. Next, in some cases, our skin color. If you're black and underneath these circumstances, man, these people try to investigate, which they won't. They ain't gonna care, because, oh, well, this person's black, look, and also look at the financial situation. Let's move on. Me, I'm a mixed breed, so what happened to me in circumstances is that, okay, my father, he's white, but I'm a mixed breed because my mother's black and Indian. So they're gonna look at him and his family, who are wealthy, but they're gonna look at my mother's family, who is practically dead and, you know, grew up poor and didn't bring in much finances in. They're gonna look at me and they just gonna see a black, red kid with learning disabilities and say, there's nothing here, let's move on. And because of these things, this is why a lot of these kids grow up selling drugs, killing people just to get by and to have money, and grow up with a poor education, because the school system overlooks kids like that. On top of that is why a lot of them end up doing jail and prison time. So if they so worried about the kids that, you know, again, with not best hygiene, it's the parents, man. You really got to look into that if you really want something done about it. If you want them in school, you have to. You have to do it. You can't ignore the problem. They so worried and doing all these news, man. We want our kids back in school. Hey, I want kids back in school too. I'm tired of seeing these little shits running around. They need something. They need an activity during 8 hours a day, rather than bickering and arguing online and trying to expose this person, talk about this person, and then rather than and always, man, I'm gonna hang out on the live chat with my friends. And for the past decade, again, it's been like that. These kids don't hang out with people that they know physically. It's not like when I was growing up. You couldn't do that. You had chat rooms, but then that's it. You could talk to somebody if they're far away, but we had a house phone. We didn't have video chats. We had some social media, like early days of Facebook, but then that's it. There was MySpace, but then the early days of Facebook was meant for college students. So it wasn't open to the public back then. People want to know how like, a virus, right, is spreaded. Okay, so viruses can be spreaded, depending on what it is, right? The flu, that comes from, I believe, stuff in the air and the things that you put in your mouth that ain't fully done or cleansed. A virus can be something that can come from the water, the food that you eat, moisture in the air that causes mold, even far as not really cleaning stuff, because when you're either outside or inside somewhere, the temperature is going to be mixed, so you're going to have hot and cold, and that can cause things such as fungi, mold to appear, especially things that are hidden, like underneath the floors and the walls. That's what you have: white mold, that's the most dangerous, and then black mold that appears, on top of the surface. So, and getting them things clean can be a hassle. A lot of the things, like that, especially throughout sweat, can cause things like a fungus to grow on the body, and you have to go get a shot for that. A fungus, can also be looked at in terms of a virus because not being clean. I used to go to Planet Fitness. I ended up catching a fungus because Planet Fitness doesn't use cleaning products at all. They just have water. It was a lot of the obese old people who would just hang around and talk, spreading this because they weren't well kept. Planet Fitness didn't clean like they should, because you have everyone who works out and sweats with their skin cells and their germs on there. So I had to go get a tetanus shot. I had to go get a needle shot, and also an antibiotic. So it went away after about a couple of weeks. There's things that that get pumped in the air every day, and when it rains, it carries that stuff down onto us, which also helps it spread. So because of that, things like that, always has spread throughout some type of virus or a fungus, right? Especially in the schools, because of them not keeping it clean, and then keeping the temperature either one day hot or one day cold, or so mixed that you start seeing stuff like asbestos. So it can be caused throughout those things. especially throughout the ocean.
Yeah. Make it orange. I like to put this orange line.
Especially just like the ocean. But, that's just an example, of what a virus and a fungus can really do. And sometimes funguses can spread into viruses as well. We got stuff in the trees that bloom and blow out wind all the time, and a lot of stuff, that comes from them, ain't always going to be the best for us to start, breathing in and getting on us and out of that nature. Pollen ain't always a good thing. There's germs all around us, good or bad. But, again, that's just a little bit of an example from a virus and a fungus, and, especially when it comes to cleanliness as well. And they wondering why, some of these kids are coming home, man, and sick, and now they got to shut down again. The problem is this. It ain't so much about the mask. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Even if you wear a mask, take a look at the people that have to work in these factories that work with toxins and poisons, and they got to go through the shower thing to make sure they don't get that stuff on them. And it's not always a guarantee, because the masks that they wear in them hazard suits, man, ain't always guaranteed to work. So they risk their life every day. Every day. They risk their life. Even when you do, exploring, and you do construction work where in an old house where you have to wear a mask, it ain't always guaranteed. Even archaeologists has to wear a mask, and it ain't always guaranteed to work, because sometimes, they may end up getting sick and dying anyways from what they were doing, even with them, again, wearing a mask. So it ain't so much the mask at all that people need to be concerned about when it comes to their kids. What they need to be concerned about, man, is, look, getting the schools clean, expand on them to make space. If you want the kids 6 feet apart, do something with overpopulation. So you're really going to have to force outside zoning. Until then, do online classes for elementary, middle school, high school. That's where the kids, for 5 hours a day, 8 hours if you want it that way as well, for them to still gain an education. Now, there's only 4 classes in high school, right? 4 classes in high school. 8 hours a day. It makes no sense, because a good majority of them hours are being wasted on practically doing nothing, ruckus, fighting, talking about somebody else or this girl, or passing notes, right? Or back in my day, we used to try to sneak our flip phones, or listen to our MP3 players or our CD players, and even snack. So what they can do, rather than 8 hours a day for people that are in high school, make it 5 hours a day. That's all they need. That's all they need, from 8 o'clock in the morning, 8, 9, 10, from 12 o'clock around dinner time. That's it. Middle school, from what I understand, it's around, 5 classes, if I remember correctly. I don't know about now. That's years ago. Shit, I didn't really enter into high school until almost 2006. So what I remember from middle school, around 5 classes. So if somebody's in middle school, and again, a good majority of them hours, again, just about as wasted like they are in high school, man. It's the same thing. So I guess around 6 hours at 6 hours at the most for middle school online. So you're looking from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, around 2 o'clock, which ain't bad, because around then, guess what? It'd be almost time to head out anyways. You know, that's practically the end of the damn school day, right? Okay, if you got somebody in elementary school and you want to do elementary classes, okay, yes, you're gonna have parents to help their young ones with that. Now, it's been so many years, but usually in your, I guess when you really start doing work is around your, your first grade, which they gotta kind of cover, your basic topics, your reading, your writing, your math, your bit of your science, your history. And that can take a while, you know. But then you gotta think about, okay, what about recess, Well, going outside and playing, so no, that takes up a couple of days or an hour at the most. And so I would say make it around 6 hours for them at the most, for people, with the elementary online classes that they can do. 6 hours, it ain't that bad. I feel like that is good hours right there, especially with, from first to fifth grade kids, getting help. So, 6 hours out the day ain't bad for the online classes. And you'll practically have that knocked out at, 1 o'clock. By the time 2 o'clock hour comes, you free. So later on in the day, the kids can have, they can go on their social media. They can do the little live chats. They can go to their bickering and arguing with people who ain't never gonna meet and fight. And they can go on the Xbox and PS4 Live and play the Fortnites and GTA Online and all that mess, and just have the rest of the day. They want to go somewhere, they can go somewhere. So around your 5 to 5 hours, 6 hour, 7 hours for different grades, for the schooling online, it is definitely an option. And I prefer them to have, if you want them to read something, have them read it online, digital. And if you want them to do paperwork of some sort, to study what they learned, to research and to write down and to take notes on stuff, have them do that. And you can have them send that in physical, and the teachers can grade at home that way. And as well as have it a way to monitor if the student read what they read. It's definitely possible. So they can do that until things get really figured out and really fixed, because there's a lot to really take in. So it's not safe right now at all for the kids to go to school. But people need to understand something. Shit like this been going on since the days I was in school. It was always somebody getting sick, always somebody catching something, man. Why? Because the schools were never kept clean, regardless of what illness or what virus was going around. And plus you have the field trips that they would take us on. You would have this these kids who would be in sports would have to travel on the charter buses, and the shit that they touch and bring back with them. So there is a lot to really take in right there. There's really a lot to really take in and take into consideration. Like, damn, man, our kids are out there every day in that, just like we were as a kid. So it is definitely cleansiness that can cause things like a virus to spread even more, depending if somebody is sick and what they touch, and also how fungus can spread as well. That can even add on to the issue. So it's definitely cleansiness, which is on top. And over population. So you really gotta take that into consideration as well. And because of this, that again, those are just ways that things can be fixed. And I know parents are sick of their kids being home, but Again, if they so, and again, you know, they want their kids to go to school and have some type of education, learn something, you know, just do what I suggest, you know, do the online thing. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. It really is. People gonna be, what, I know a lot of people are like, what about sports? What about sports? Who gives a fuck about sports, man? And shit. These kids don't even do physical sports anyways, man. They just play that shit on their football games, man, on that 2K shit that they waste their money on every year buying the same goddamn game. Repeatedly over and over and over. So, they don't care about damn sports. Shit. They're so damn concerned about sports. You want to enforce some type of physical activity. Nah, they don't care about that. So yes, you know, those are things just to take into consideration. And with that being said, man, I'm out.